back to you. So any question regarding this point?
No.
Okay, thank you. Now we will move into do while loop. Here we will do the loop body statements while the condition is true. So at least the statement inside the while loop or a do while loop will be executed at least once. So do while repetition statement test the condition after executing the loop body. So at least we are expecting the loop body to be executed at least one. When a do while statement terminates, execution continue with the next statement in sequence. So every time the sentence will be executed unless until the condition of the while loop is broken. So here brackets are not required in the do while repetition statement as it will become in sequence if there is only one statement in the body, but it's better include the practice to avoid confusion between the while and do while. So what will happen here? The body of the loop will be executed, then the condition will be checked. So it's different from the while loop. The while, the condition checked first, but then the statement go in. If the loop continue condition in a for loop is omitted, like here, so here we don't have any condition, it will happen, nothing happen. It's like if we type while the condition is true, while true, do something, this means it will be always there as the default value will be always true. So if the loop continue condition in a for loop is omitted, it is implicitly true. Thus, the statement given below, A will be equivalent to while. So here in for and while, this statement will be representing infinite loop. It's correct, the syntax correct, but it's actually, we don't need it. We don't need infinite loop. It's better to use the equivalent loop in B to avoid confusion, which is this one. So never do this. And actually, we don't, sometimes we need while true. Adding semicolon at the end of the for loop, this means you are breaking the statement there. So the curly bracket here is not related to the body of the for loop. So if you place a semicolon at the end of the first line of the for loop, mean there is nobody for the for loop, but the syntax is correct. يعني ما راح يطلع لك خطأ بس logic is error. So basically we don't place semicolon after the first line of the for loop. The following loop is also wrong. If we place a semicolon after the first line of the while loop, this will be also a logic error, as this means the loop is end here. ما في يعني, there is no body of the loop here, no loop body here. So if you place a semicolon here, this means this code is not related to the while loop. So don't expect that the println message will be executed 10 times. In the case of the do loop, the following semicolon is needed to end the loop. Let's see here. So if you use do while, do, then you open the curly bracket, and while your condition is true, you need to place here a semicolon at the end of do while condition. So this is correct and it's supposed to be there. So in the do while it's correct, في ال while not correct, في ال for not correct. So which loop to use? Basically, you have three forms of the loop statement: while, do while, and for. They are equivalent, so you can write your code with any type of the loop. All of them can be working fine for you. Use the one that is most intuitive and comfortable for you. So my recommendation, if you know the number of iteration, always go with for. If you know the condition to break a loop, go with while or do while. So in general, for loop may be used if the number of repetition is known, like if you need to print a message 100 times. A while loop used if the number of repetition is not known, but you know the condition to break out a loop. So in the case of reading the numbers until the input is 0, this will be good way or good use of while loop. Do while loop can be used to replace a while loop if the loop body has to be executed before testing the continuation condition, at least one. يعني if you need to execute الcode at least one, then it's better to go with do while. We have here useful reserved word like break or continue. We will see they're useful, especially with the loop. So we can use a break statement when we are inside while or for or do while or even switch. So if you remember in the switch, if we use a break, this means stop here, carry on the statements outside the switch statement. Immediately exit from that statement. So it will do the same for while or for do while. If we have a break, it will stop at that point of the iteration of the program, of the loop, and carry on the blocks outside a loop. So execution continue with the first statement after the control statement. Common use of the break statement are to escape early from a loop or to escape the reminder of a switch. So basically this is the use of a break. A continue statement, it will break only the current iteration, بعدين it will increment the counter with 1 وcarry on a loop. So the continue statement when executing in a while for or do while, skip the remaining statement in the loop body and process with the next iteration of the loop. So it will not stop the loop, but it will stop only the current iteration of the loop. In while and do while statement, the program evaluates the loop continuation test immediately after the continue statement executes. In a for statement, the increment in expression execute, then the program evaluates the loop continuation test.
شباب تسمعون صوت الدكتورة؟
You wasn't hear me?
No, we didn't hear you, دكتورة.
الحين نسمعك يا دكتور.
يعني لو ما تكلم زميلكم ما انتبه ترى. Okay, so خلينا نشوف where were we?
And
When?
using break continue.
And continue.
Break and continue. So you was here when I come back يعني.
Yeah, when you transfer to another program, the coding.
Okay, so only here. Good,
Yes.
good. يعني this one, this slide, you heard the explanation or no for the break and continue? So only
We stopped
when I
on it.
go
Yes, here.
Yeah, stop in here, doctor.
Here.
here. Okay. Okay, so let's back. So here, sorry guys بس اليوم ما ادري ايش في الناس كلها تتصل فبس just give me 1 second. Sorry, guys. So here, what will happen? We have an initial value 0 when number equals 0. While a number is less than 20, every time the counter for the number will be an increment with sum will change with the value of the number. And every time the counter total will be an increment. When it will stop, when the value of the sum reach 100. So every time it will be an increment until some value is greater than or equal 100, it will break. So it will carry on على طول the sentence after the while loop, which is printing on the screen a number with a sum. Okay. For the continue, what will happen here? The same idea, but my condition here, if a number was equal to 10 or 11, it will not add a sum to the, it will not add a number to the sum. So it will ignore only when the number was equal to 10 or 11. Continue, this means don't execute the rest of the while loop, but increment the number value. يعني 10 ignored, 11 ignored, 12 is less than 20.
It will be sum.
It will be included in the sum. By the end, a system will print on the screen the sum is a total of 1 to 20, except 10 and 11. Okay, this means continue. Continue means
Specific condition will not apply that, صح?
نعم.
A specific condition, it will not be part from the countering.
No.
So when a condition, if the number equal to 10 or equal to 11, continue in the while loop without adding to the sum.
Exactly. Without carrying the rest inside the body loop. يعني ignore the rest of the loop and add the counter to 1, incremental counter to 1.
Yes.
Okay. So if we have a break, this means it will go outside the loop body and carry on the program. If we have continue, this means ignore the rest inside the body loop, but continue with a loop. Okay. If we have a nested loops is loop statement. We have inner loop, outer loop. The inner loop will be the one inside another one. The outer loop will be the outside loop, which has another loops inside it. Like, for example, if we want to have a multiplication table, 1 multiply 1, then 2 multiply 1, then 10 multiply 1, we need to print the multiplication table. In this case, we need counter first for the first parameter, which is 1, بعدين increment by 2, بعدين 3 until 10. We need also another counter to be changed every time the first counter was 1. So it needs to be changed 1 until 10. وبعدين when the outer counter is an increment, we need to also repeat the same iteration of the inner counter 1 to 10. So to do this, basically we need 2 loops. Let us start by printing only the multiplication table of 1. So if we want to do only for 1, basically we need to give initial value like integer j equal 1, while j is less than or equal 10. Every time incremental j by 1, print on the screen 1, which is actually the table of 1, and j, and 1 multiply j. يعني 1 جدول ضرب الواحد. J will be changed every time from 1 until 10. Every time we will increment j, and this will be printed on the screen. 1 multiply 1 equal 1, 1 multiply 2 equal 2, because j is changing from 1 to 10. This is when we have actually a table of 1. So here will be always printed 1, 1, 1, 1 based on here. J is changing from 1 to 10, so 1, 2, 3 until 10. 1 multiply J, so every time this operation will be executed and print the output on the screen. And you need to repeat this and change the value 2 on the second time here or here 2. And this is tedious actually, because you can do it with only 1, 2, 3 lines. So what you need to do here, you need outer loop, have it a counter, like for example I, which will work like the first operator here, which is 1. So you will give it initial value 1 until is less than until I is less than or equal 10 every time in increment I by 1. So what you need to do here, you will open the curly bracket وبعدين you will put another loop inside it. So this is the outer loop and this is the inner loop. The inner loop, every time integer j, let it equal 1 while j is less than 10 every time j plus plus. So here what will happen, print I, print j, then print the multiplication of I and j. So this will print for me, I will become 1 at the beginning, so I is 1, j from 1 to 10, this table will be printed. This is for the first iteration of I equal 1. Finished, خلاص, it will go to the outer loop, I will become 2, then I still 1, so this table will be printed when I become 2. Finished, خلاص, it will repeat itself, change the value of I to 3, and increment the value. Is it clear, this example? Okay. So here, for example, we need to print the triangle of stars. So we need to print 1 in the first line, 2 in the second line, 3 in the third line, until 7 lines. So we need first counter for the number of lines, which is 7. We give it initial value 1. My condition is I less than or equal 7. So this represents lines. بعدين the inner loop, we need to define the j, which is from 1 until my condition here is j is less than or equal I. So j first, 1, I is 1. So it will print only 1 asterisk, only 1 star. Then I become 2. This means I need to print 2. So from 1 until 2, print 2 stars on the second line. The third iteration of the outer loop, I is 3. So this is on the third line. J, reset its value to 1, 1, then 2, then 3, which is the condition to break out the inner loop. It will print 3 stars. And this will repeat itself 7 times. Okay. The same idea if we want to change the asterisk with numbers. So my condition here, print the following triangle of numbers. So we have 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So how many values we need? We need to print it 5 times. So this is I is less than or equal 5, the number of lines. J is the repetition in each line. So from 1 until my condition j is less than or equal I. Every time print on the screen j, which is actually 1, then 1, 2, then 1, 2, 3. So we actually printing the value of j. We have an example here, finding the greatest common divisor. We need to write a program to ask the user to enter 2 numbers and find their greatest common divisors. Suppose the user entered 4 and 2, then the greatest common divisor is 2. If the user entered 16 and 28, then the greatest common divisor is 8, يعني القاسم المشترك الأكبر. So If we need to find the greatest common divisor, we will ask the user to enter two values, store it inside N1 and N2. We will suppose that number 1 is the common divisor, but it might not be the greatest common divisor. Yani we will suppose number 1 is a common divisor, but not necessarily the greatest common divisor, which is actually the requirement from this problem. So it's similar to the maximum example. We just saw it before. What we can do, we can check whether K, which is 2, 3, 4, until the reaching of the second number is the common divisor for number 1 and number 2 until we found a greatest value than N1 or N2. So let us see here the example. We ask the user to enter the first integer and enter a second integer. بعدين the greatest common divisor, we give it actually the value 1. And we start the counter with 2. My condition is in 2 is less than or equal in number 1 or less than or equal in number 2, because for sure a common divisor supposed to be a value between them. So for sure it's supposed to be less than or equal number 1 or number 2. What was my condition? Yes.
or ولا and الكونديشن الواي؟
and
اوكي يعني لازم يكون true two true.
true يعني لازم يكون اقل من الرقم الاول والرقم الثاني اللي اليوزر بداخله، لان اكيد القاسم المشترك قيمه ما بينهم، مستحيل بتكون مثلا القاسم المشترك بين 2 و4 قيمه اكبر منهم.
تمام اوكي.
Okay, so it's supposed to be and مش or. So the condition here, if the remaining value of division, the first number on K is equal to 0, or a second value division, a remind division of the second number on 0, then we will let the value of K inside the value of GCD, which is actually similar to maximum. يعني إذا فاكرين الإكزامبل حق الماكسيموم is similar، كل مرة بشتغل.
assign the value.
Yes، إذا كانت القيمة أكبر، this mean إذا كان إن لما جيت قسمت if I divide the number on K and this give me remind 0, this mean K is the greatest common divisor. So I will place it inside the GCD and increment K by 1. Okay. And this will not exceed K above number 2. So my condition here that it's supposed to be always less than the first or second number, which is actually input from the user. Any question regarding this one? Okay.
No, doctor.
Another example that we can use it with the loop, which is actually checking a prime number. Write a program that reads from a user integer number and checks and print if the entered number is a prime or not. An integer greater than 1 is a prime if its only positive divisor is 1 or itself. For example, we have 2, 3, and 5, and 7. We call them a prime number because we cannot divide them on any other number except themselves or 1. 4, 6, 8, and 9 are not because we can divide them on another numbers except themselves. Like 3, for example, for 9, we can divide it on a 3. So they are not a prime. How to do this actually? We will accept some input from the user and we need here a Boolean variable. We will call it is a prime. We give it the value true. So my condition that if this prime, assume the number is a prime. We will always assuming that the entered value by the user is a prime until the condition is not a prime, until the when we check the value if it's a prime or not. So here we need a divisor. We need a for loop, divisor equal to. My condition is divisor is less than or equal number on 2. So here we actually will divide the entered value on 2 and check the divisor if it's less than or equal a result. Every time the divisor will be increment by 1. If the remaining value of the division of number on the divisor is equal 0, this means the number is not a prime. It has another values accepted to be divided on. This means is a prime will become false. So we change the condition here, then break, exit from a loop. If it's a prime, this means if it's a true, print on the screen this number is a prime, otherwise it is not a prime. Okay, in this way we finish meeting for a loop. Do you have any question regarding it?
بس أنا دخلت الساعة 26 دقيقة عادي يحسب لي حضور.
لا راح أغيبك. ليش جاية متأخرة 26 دقيقة؟
كان عندي موعد، والله كان عندي موعد ضروري، أهلي تعبانين وزي كذا.
سلامتك سلامتهم. أصلا ما بدينا إلا الساعة 6:15. فإتس فاين، بمزح وياك بس.
أوكي.
أوكي. في أحد عنده سؤال على البرزنتيشن؟ Okay, so
يعطيك العافية دكتور.
Allah يعافيكم يا رب. So if you have no question regarding this meeting, I will explain the TMA but in another video. So I will stop the recording here.